Drip Bayless said, between all the players to never win, who would be the easiest to start a franchise and maximize their career to win multiple championships? My choice is Melo, pre-2012 draft.
So I guess he's talking about all the players that didn't win a championship prior to 2012. Who would you build a championship team around?
So that takes the guys like Chris Paul and James Harden off the table.
No, they.
Oh, pre-2012 draft.
Okay,
because I thought like they would. I thought okay.
It's before 2012. Okay. Prior to 2012.
Yeah. So anyone who was drafted before 2012 who hasn't won a championship.
I don't think he was saying before 2012. I think he was just saying his choice is Melo pre-2012 draft.
Yeah, but I think he wants us to answer the question, but like he doesn't
what
want
is
to
the
be
2012 draft?
I don't think he wants us to be like Wemby.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pre-2012 draft.
Okay.
I think Chris Paul's a good one. I think James Harden's an interesting one. Steve Nash, I think, should have won.
Steve Nash is a great one.
Steve Nash would probably be my answer. If I'm being honest, Steve Nash is probably my answer.
Wait. So you're saying, can you frame the question for me again?
From any players who have won no championships in their career, who were drafted prior to 2012, who would you build around, or who do you think would be the easiest to build around to ultimately win a championship?
Let me ask you a question, Mars. I thought this would put you in a little bit of a of a tizzy. You ready?
Yep.
Steve Nash or CP3
as a player, or just to build around?
Both.
I think with Steve Nash, I think the offensive upside is higher, but then you also got to counterbalance with the defensive hunting that would occur. I think Chris Paul has less flaws, but I think the ceiling with Steve Nash is ultimately still higher. And also,
do you think Nash is
when you think about building for championships, you got to factor in injuries and health, and Chris Paul's more liable to get hurt.
I don't know why I did that. Do you think Nash's 04-06 runs better than CP3's like that 8-10 era?
I think peak Steve Nash is better than peak Chris Paul. I think Chris Paul sustains a level of excellence for longer than Steve Nash did, and I think his years outside of his excellence were also more valuable, like more impactful in general. So I think like in the longevity sense, I got Chris Paul, but at the absolute apex of both of them, I got Steve Nash. And I think when I start factoring in winning a championship, you need to be healthy. And Chris Paul was less reliable in that department, whereas Steve Nash I could rely on to be there pretty consistently in the playoffs. They both performed very well in the playoffs, contrary to popular belief, which is a weird like stigma on both of them that they didn't seem to perform in the playoffs when both of them were really, really good in the playoffs. So yeah, I would probably pick Steve Nash. And a sneaky one, not saying I would pick them, but just a sneaky like honorable mention. I think building around Reggie Miller is actually quite easy, if I'm being honest. I think
it'd be a great second option.
I think building around Reggie Miller is very easy. And then you look at like how much of a playoff riser he was, how valuable his off-ball movement was in a time when people didn't really recognize how valuable off-ball movement and all of those things were. I think Reggie Miller would be quite easy to build around as well. But Steve Nash is probably my pick off the top of my head.
I mean, the player that everybody knows I would pick if I could build around them and put a proper championship team around them at their apex with Melo. Like, I think Melo could have won one too.
Oh, the answer probably is number 32.
No.
That's what I was going to say. I was going to say Malone.
Yeah, I'm not going to. I was going to say him from memory.
I'm surprised you didn't say Elgin Baylor.
That was my second one. That was the second guy I was going to say. I was going to say Malone, and I was going to say Elgin Baylor. One, the pick and dive and the pick and pop league that we live in today. That's Malone's game, and how fast the game is today. The transition play that Malone is. It's almost elementary to build around a player like him, as good as he is, and Elgin Baylor. I mean that's to Swiper's point. I mean, Elgin Baylor, the one-on-one bucket getter that he is, and the wing player that he is, yeah, he'd be great to build around. 100%.
Who you got, Ken?
There's so many good names that have not been even broached or talked about. Allen Iverson is one of them, certainly. I don't think it's necessarily easy to build around Allen Iverson because you need a lot of defense and you need a lot of, catch and shoot type of finisher type of guys. But I think AI was very underrated as a playmaker for others. Tracy McGrady also, weirdly enough, comes in there, but he never got out of the first round. But Tracy McGrady is hella talented. Vince Carter, I think deserves some love in this conversation as well. I think early Vince Carter was like a very good player. Later on, settled into more of a role player, but I thought he was very, very good. But if I had to pick one, another name that just does not come up enough in these conversations, Chris Webber. Very easy player to build around. And honestly, between Chris Webber and Karl Malone, I know that Malone probably gets the accolades and probably, but I love Chris's passing. Chris's playmaking just makes other people better. I feel like if the refs don't job the Sacramento Kings, he probably won a championship. So it's like, I don't know. I could replicate that. There ain't no way I'm taking Steve Nash over Chris Webber. So
can I not make the same refs argument for Steve Nash?
You said you wouldn't take Steve Nash over Chris
Yeah,
Webber?
could I just based on that argument you just made for Chris Webber? No, could I
not as a career swiper, just as in terms of what's easiest to build around. Because Chris Webber was a good defender.
What's wrong with career? Chris Webber was a dog.
Could I not make the same argument that if it weren't for refs intervention, Steve Nash could have a championship?
Do you really think it was the refs?
I don't think so.
Yes.
No.
I think I can make the argument if that's what I'm saying. I think we can make the argument the same way we can make the argument for Chris Webber. I think we can make the argument. I also would make the argument for James Harden in that same regards.
Oh man, boy!
I think if we're gonna if that's the argument for Chris Webber, I think like that argument.
Muffled. I don't know what you did with it, but it might sound different.
Yeah, so like the refs argument, like I think that's a valid argument for Chris Webber. Like 0-2, I think is a very valid and I think they would have beat the Nets.
Mm-hmm.
But I also think there's other ringless players who have definitely not benefited from like Chris Paul, and James Harden and Steve Nash. Like they're all like examples. And there's other players who have like probably not felt the benefit of refereeing.
I'm just
was that a referee thing in 07 or was that just yes, that's better.
Yeah, it's better.
Was that a referee thing in 07 or was that just unfortunate that guys came off the bench?
I hate to step in and interrupt this intense yap session that you're currently watching, but I just have to inform you on all the amazing, spectacular, fabulous, endless ways to play and win over at PrizePicks. Basketball fans, I know the season is just tipping off. Yes, I know this. But you know what that means? It means that you have an opportunity to pick your favorite players and their matchups that are the most thrilling, and you can win money from these. With PrizePicks, you can play daily NBA contests and test your hoop knowledge by choosing the player projections in every single stat line imaginable to make your PrizePicks and take home some nice hard-earned cash. Are you a rookie in the game? Don't even sweat it. I got the playbook for you right here. All you have to do is download PrizePicks, use promo code PANEL, and you will get $50 instantly when you play 5 here with PrizePicks. So what are you waiting for? Download PrizePicks, use promo code PANEL, and join me as we break down all of our amazing daily picks right here on the panel. PrizePicks. Run your game, control your game, win your game. It's easy, baby. It's easy.
Because I think they beat Cleveland. I think they beat San Antonio. And I think that they beat Cleveland too.
You know what? I have my answer.
If I look at what happened, and I'm like, that got
Sabonis.
suspension, I think that's crazy.
There we go. That's my answer. Arvydas Sabonis.
One more time, Mars. I didn't hear you. I'm sorry.
The pen was Mars.
Yeah, Penn picks Arvydas Sabonis. I think looking at that 07 situation, like I guess by the letter of the law, a foot stepped on the court. You look at it like, come on, like that's not worthy of a suspension in the playoffs. If we're being serious, like one foot stepped on the court, and you're saying suspend them, like. Yes, I'm saying that's on refs. Like, there's got to be some sort of understanding. Like,
yeah, I don't like that. I don't like that call.
That's unserious.
He was tossed in that game too, wasn't he? I think he was tossed in that game.
Yeah.
Yes, I think he was tossed in that game in particular. I think he was tossed.
I'd have to check if I'm being honest, but like that, and I'm not saying I'm picking Steve Nash because of the ref thing. Like, that doesn't. Like, I think you got to have multiple chances, and unfortunately, winning a championship takes a lot of luck, and sometimes you don't have that luck. So, like guys like Steve Nash, James Harden, Chris Webber,
sure,
teams like the Utah Jazz with 32 and Stockton, like they were all capable of winning championships. They just didn't. Like that's how I view it. They were capable, they just didn't.
Right.
I don't think Hakeem would have won one if Jordan would have been around. I think that's how the NBA works. Like you catch a window, and I think that every player you benefit from tremendous situation and timing. And I think a lot of players don't benefit from that. I think Charles didn't benefit. I think Charles absolutely You know, again, everybody knows I think he's better than Malone in some ways, but I think Charles it was the wrong era, the wrong situation, and the best he ever got was Phoenix. I think there's other iterations he could have entered his career in during his prime from 84 to like 94 or whatever, and he absolutely could have won the championship. He was that good.
So I think a lot goes into it, and my theory, and this is why the answer probably is number 32. I just don't want it to be him. Like, you got to have as many bites of the apple as possible, and you've got to have sustained health, and you've got to be really good for a really long time to give yourself as many opportunities as possible.
And he was all of those things.
And he fits all of those criteria. Like Steve Nash, you've got a window of like when he's at his apex for those 5-6 years, you're going to have elite offenses every year. If you can put a sustainable defense, you've got a shot. Chris Paul, he's going to be really good for a really long time, but expect some injuries to derail some playoff runs. That's a concern.
And
James
also,
Harden,
Steve Nash
you're going to have a really good stretch of time, but
Yep.
you know he's going to regress in the playoffs. So can you still overcome that regression? That's the concern. With him, with number 32, there was some playoff regression, but you had so many bites at the cherry that I do think he probably is the correct answer.
I feel like
And one of the main reasons why you had so many bites at the cherry is because of health. To your point, you know, when guys being able to stay healthy, Malone was consistently on the floor and he was playing at a high level. And I just think that because of the way the game is played today, how fast it is, how important the lead guard is, the pick and pop, the pick and dive offense that we see today, and the transition player that he is, building around him, I think is the easiest than anybody else who did not win the championship.
Chill. It's funny that you say that because it's a guy that has not been named that you just crashed out about just last week. You know the dude is better than Giannis.
Swiper just said it. Swiper did just say it.
You know the dude is better than Giannis and better than Jokic. Why?
Well, it's interesting.
But he doesn't actually believe that, Rob.
He just thinks 32 is better than all of them.
No, but
that's what I was
You think
about.
Malone is better? Man, stop it. You don't believe that. You don't believe that. No, you don't. I'm so sick of this old 90s nonsense. I didn't say I watched just as much Malone as you could, obviously, but I watched Karl Malone. And your function.
Malone was better than Barkley. You can't sell me that he wasn't. He was better than
they weren't better than Jokic.
Hold on, though.
And I want to make sure that I preference.
Damn sure, because
I just want to make sure that I preference.
He was a far worse offensive player than Giannis Antetokounmpo.
I want to make sure that I preference what this argument is about.
Malone.
I want to make sure that I preference. We discussed. No, that's not true. He's
a worse offensive player than him. I don't.
This was about a specific stretch. This wasn't about Barkley being better than Giannis all time. This wasn't about Malone. This was not about that. This was about
90, 89 to 94, right?
That's what you said. That's all. That 93. That's all this was about. Period.
So
you said Barkley played against Tim Duncan. Interesting. That wasn't from 89 to 93.
I'm trying to
I
remember
feel like
what-
y'all skipped over the
I forgot my
obvious
point.
answer, which is clearly Arvydas Sabonis. I'm not kidding.
Facts.
Well, if he
I
just
don't
came
hate
into
that.
the league,
Arvydas is
Nope,
fantastic.
I don't.
And I mean, like, look, when I was thinking
Joker.
about this question for real, I was thinking about why don't players win a ring? Part of it is luck. You just enter the league at the wrong time. You run into the wrong team. You get injured at the wrong time. Okay. Part of it is size. Some of these players are really small. Steve Nash, a little bit small. Allen Iverson, Chris Paul. There's some size issues. Some of it is defense. Some of these players just did not play very good defense. And then when I was thinking about Charles Barkley, I was like, damn, I cannot forget the defense. And defense wins championships, right? That is it. So honestly, one of the players, had he not won with Detroit, that would be on my mind right now would be Rasheed Wallace. Because that's a player that, I mean, granted, not quite the level of talent that some of these other players are, but that's a dude that's very easy to build around for a championship core. And that's why I'm thinking Arvydas Sabonis. Arvydas Sabonis, because he played very, very well in the playoffs. He's battling up against Shaq. He was the one guy that I thought really just went blow for blow with him, even though Shaq won the advantage. I think that's partially because Arvydas was old, but a young Arvydas shooting jumpers, making those passes. Arvydas did everything that gets you wins. I guarantee you, if he comes into the league in his prime, he's at like 11 box plus minus and then super efficient. Just basically what we're seeing with Jokic without all the criticism of, he doesn't play defense because Arvydas defended. So I just feel like, I know this has become a bit of a sore topic with me because Lo and I went back and forth about Arvydas Sabonis. I really wish we could build a time machine and really see that just for 10 games, just for 10 games, just so people could.
Better than Jokic?
Mars, It's a conversation. When he was
It
when
is a
he was
conversation.
when he was before the health
Definitely a
issues.
conversation.
It's definitely a conversation of how good he was. His footwork was impeccable.
Chill, I think
he was a damn good athlete.
Any elite center from the 1990s was in conversation with.
That's not true because I think Joker would have. I think Joker would have destroyed Alonzo Mourning. I think he would have ate Alonzo Mourning lunch. I think he would have bust Patrick
Didn't
Ewing.
you say you don't know if Patrick Ewing about right better than him?
Did I say what?
You didn't know if Patrick Ewing to outright better than Joker?
I did. Did I say that?
I don't know. I don't know.
Oh, we had this conversation multiple times.
Is David Robinson better than Jokic? Sure.
Yes, and yes, I think so. Yes.
I mean,
We already know about Moses Malone. So.
Yeah, well, we don't got to bring up Moses.
Moses, David Robinson,
Jokic.
Charles Barkley.
I'm not doing this with you. I promise.
Carl Malone. Who else is on that list? Shaquille O'Neal. Who else is on the list? Tim Duncan, obviously. So Dirk. Do you think Dirk is better?
He said Dirk's better. He said Dirk's better.
Dirk's better.
Which means Kevin Garnett's on the list.
So I just want you guys comparing.
I ain't gonna lie.
So we got hold on. We got Kevin Garnett, Dirk, Charles Barkley, Malone, David Robinson, Moses Malone. Who
Rick
else?
Smits.
Well, obviously Shaq.
Not
Kareem,
Rick Smith,
Bill
bro. Don't do that
Russell,
one. Not Rick
Shaq,
Smith.
Bill Russell, Kareem,
Will.
Hakeem.
Yep.
Will.
Hakeem.
Okay.
Yep.
And potentially Arvydas.
And potentially Arvydas.
And potentially Arvydas.
Yeah,
but not Patrick Ewing. Patrick Ewing.
Patrick Ewing is also in conversation with Joker.
And Charles Barkley. Don't forget Charles Barkley.
Is Patrick Ewing a conversation or is
15 bigs? That's like 15 bigs.
I think
it's a conversation.
I think Joker might have passed him, but it was a conversation, a real one.
The question was not the best player. The question was the player that's easiest to build around. Okay, when I'm talking about we're really talking about portability.
Right.
Here. When you talk about a big who cannot finish the free throws, who isn't a good defender, there's compensation elements. Okay, I'm talking about a super well-rounded player who can stretch the floor out to 25 feet, who can pass from the high post, from the low post, who can run in transition, who can guard. I mean, what weakness can you point to in Arvydas' game? There's zero. There's zero weaknesses.
When he was
I just never watched. I've just never watched.
Well-rounded player. That's what I'm saying. He was a glass cleaner, right? He was an athlete. Like there's just not. So I'm not arguing that he's better necessarily than some of these players. I mean, sure, you could definitely argue Charles Barkley peak for peak, or Allen Iverson peak for peak, Tracy McGrady peak for peak, Jimmy Butler. Shit, I think most fans would agree that Jimmy Butler is a better player, but when you're talking about well-roundedness, when you're talking about easiest to build around, you're talking about 4 average players, right? And when I'm building around you and I just got 4 average players to put around, I don't want to be thinking I need specialists to cover up for you. I want you to be the player that can cover up for everybody else. That's when I think about guys like Dikembe Mutombo in this situation. I'm like, damn, not quite the offensive player, but what a great defensive player, right? Even Ewing in this conversation deserves some mention because he was a very good defender, right? So again, like I'm thinking pure portability. That's why I thought about guys like Chris Webber, because he's a super well-rounded player.
All right, can I get mine now? Can I get mine now?
Who you got?
I mean, I got a lot. Damn, man, it's kind of hard for me to pick.
It's a great question.
He gonna say Coutinho Mobley.
No, hell no. I was gonna say T-Mac. Kent was killer, but I was gonna say Coutinho. I was gonna say T-Mac, but somebody already brought up T-Mac. I was gonna say Allen Iverson. Somebody already brought up Allen Iverson. So I'm gonna have to either go with D Rose or Brandon Roy.
Easiest to build around?
That's what I'm talking about, man.
Brandon Roy is easy to
You
build
gonna
around.
get 3 years. You gonna
Keep
get
going.
3 years.
Keep going.
B Roy. I'm talking about in a perfect era. B Roy with give me a shooter, give me a defender, give me a solid PG.
Keep going.
Man, B Roy might go.
So we just
Jordan,
gonna ignore that you're gonna get 3 seasons.
Ryan,
and then
you realize
how many seasons you need? How many seasons do you need?
Hey, I need 3 solid years with my team that I'm building.
I mean, I just think you need more than 3. Like,
no, I need 3 solid years with the same team.
Similar to what Penn said, the question is easiest to build around. Like, respectfully, I don't think anyone with 3 years is the best answer. I just don't.
Hey, with Brandon Roy talent is because they just matched up him and Greg Oden on the same team, and then there's 2 guys that got hurt. if them two guys don't get hurt,
Okay, wait.
But Brandon
Jordan,
Roy
Or,
was
or if they draft
is
KD
Brandon Roy better than
instead.
Jimmy Butler? No, hang on.
yeah, yes,
Hell yeah.
yes,
What?
yes.
Jimmy who?
Brandon Roy is better than Jimmy Butler. 6'8", B. Roy, better score. Jimmy
6'8",
Butler might be a better
Not
defender.
6'8".
Wasn't
Six
that big.
eight.
He
Six
wasn't
eight.
6'8".
6'8", but it, hey, but it felt like 6'8". It felt
He was
6'8" though.
6'5".
Brandon Roy ain't no 6'5".
6'6". He was 6'6". He was 6'6".
6'5", 6'6".
So the
That man was 6'8". That's what I know.
6'7". I'm gonna give him 6'7".
He was not
skill
6'7".
set
I've
wise,
seen the
Brandon Roy
dude.
ain't crazy.
not
It's not
6'7".
crazy.
He wasn't.
Brandon Roy ain't crazy skill set wise. I want to focus on the fact you said D Rose. D Rose is like one of my favorite players ever, but D Rose couldn't shoot. Like
Don't
so-
matter, bro. Don't matter. You said build around. Give me a shooter. That's
But
what you
especially
give me a shooter.
because based off of especially other
Give me
conversations
Clay with
that's been
D
going-
Rose. I'm talking about Golden State Clay.
But D Rose couldn't shoot what? Because D Rose couldn't knock down the mid-range shots. Let's not make it sound like D Rose couldn't shoot at all. Yes, he could. He could knock down a mid-range shot. He could knock down the long ball. He might not be able to knock it down like Chris Paul. He might not be able to knock it down like guards can today, but he could shoot. Let's not make it sound like he was Rondo, because no, he wasn't. No,
So
he
one
wasn't.
of the things based on just how, especially with how Penn has been looking at it, I'm thinking that we're trying to win a championship today. And I feel like when we're talking about easiest with so many different choices that we have, I don't even think D Rose comes up there because of that limitation. That's the point I'm trying to bring up. Is we trying to win the championship today? That limitation is a pretty
you're putting
big
them
one.
in this era?
That's what I interpreted. The
Oh, I was doing it in their time.
Also, I
Oh.
just looked it up. Brandon Roy was 6'5.25 without shoes, 6'6" in shoes.
Yeah,
Yeah, we
Draft
play with
pick.
shoes, man. We play with
6'6",
shoes, man.
6'6", 6'6".
6'6".
Yeah,
Penn,
that's
I seen
cool.
the dude.
I'm gonna buy them insoles that give him like 2-inch vertical, so they're gonna be 6'8".
Oh, them,
Come on now.
Them illegal
Come
results.
on now.
Yeah, them illegal
You wearing
insoles. I don't know
lips?
how somebody gonna check your insoles. You're not checking my shoe, bro. If I got them on, you're not checking my shoe, bro. Get your ass away from my shoes, bro. You're not take off your shoe. Hell nah.
Yo,
The more
fellas.
I think a point
I don't
guard
even
is
let them
That's
check
the
my receipt
craziest
at
thing I
Walmart.
found in
Get your ass
Canada.
away from me.
When you come to Canada, they always ask you to take off your shoes. I'm like, nah, bro.
It's the player choice way. Yeah, them boys don't get it started. The player choice way. Yeah, the player choice way. Come and switch lanes into the player choice way.